Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's episode of Reality TV News. Reminding you we post videos daily, so if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss any important update.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about some online activity from Joe Giudice. You know, Teresa Giudice's ex from Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Right.
There's been quite a bit of reaction to something he shared, and we want to kind of unpack that, look at the post, the reaction, and what it might, illuminate.
Yeah, definitely sparked a lot of conversation.
So let's set the scene a bit. Joe recently put an image up on his Instagram story. And context here is he's been pretty open about supporting Donald Trump, the whole Mad GA movement.
Right, that's kind of his stance lately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the image itself, it was a meme. It came from a page called Real Based Bias.
Okay.
And it showed former President Obama asking Melania Trump, "How could you have married that man?"
And her reply in the meme.
She supposedly replies, "I was going to ask you the same question."
Okay.
And what really got people talking too was the timing. This was shared the day before Juneteenth.
And the reaction online was, well, pretty immediate.
It sounds like it.
Someone on Reddit posted it straight away to the Bravo Housewives thread.
Okay.
And the caption they used was very direct. Joe Giudice's racist post about Michelle Obama.
Straight to racist.
Yeah. And that just opened the floodgates in the comments. People were throwing around words like bigot. And interestingly, a lot of the initial focus was also on accusations of transphobia.
Transphobia? How did that come into it?
We'll get to that link. But yeah, those are the main labels being thrown around: bigot, racist, transphobic.
And some of those comments, they really bring to life just how strong the feeling was. Like one person said they always knew it would come out one day.
Implying they expected something like this.
Seems like it. Especially, they said, against Black women. Another comment described it as a double combo racism with transphobia.
A double combo.
Yeah, and even called him a bigotry avatar. That's pretty intense language.
It really is. And to sort of clarify why people felt this wasn't, totally out of character for him.
Right.
Another comment brought up his past, specifically using that homophobic slur, the F word, back in RHONJ season 3.
Oh, I remember that incident, yeah.
So this commenter connected the dots, basically saying, not surprising that a guy that comfortable being homophobic is also comfortable being racist and transphobic.
Okay, so linking past behavior to this current post.
Exactly. Establishing a perceived pattern.
So you mentioned transphobia earlier. Some saw it as primarily that, but others saw both racism and transphobia. How did people connect those two ideas?
Yeah, that's where the discussion got quite nuanced. The argument presented in the comments was that transphobia and racism can be linked, specifically in the way Black women are sometimes stereotyped. The idea being that there's this harmful stereotype portraying Black women as more masculine compared to, say, delicate white women.
Okay, I see the angle.
So the accusation was that by sharing that meme, asking Melania about marrying Barack Obama, the subtext, according to these commenters, was Joe implying Michelle Obama, a Black woman, is actually a man.
Wow. So playing right into that specific stereotype.
That was the interpretation, yeah.
Yeah.
That he was leaning on this idea that Black women are seen as, quote, more masculine than their counterparts.
So it's really quite something, a single Instagram story post, right? And it evokes this huge, complex discussion. Racism, transphobia, public figures, what they post online, the responsibility they have. It certainly illustrates the impact these things can have.
Definitely.
How is it that a family doesn't pay their taxes for years?
Okay, so we're jumping right into that moment with Teresa Giudice. You might have seen the clip. It kind of blew up.
Oh, yeah. Hard to miss.
Exactly. And it wasn't just, the drama of it. It really says something about celebrity, transparency, all that.
Right. What happens when the questions get uncomfortable?
Okay, let's set the scene then. Teresa Giudice is on WGN News doing a video call.
Right. And before things went sideways, it was pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, she was talking about her 18 years on TV and admitted, some regret. And she was really positive about Gen NYC, her daughter Gia's show, gushing about the cat.
Right. Seemed proud.
She even said she didn't have a problem with Danielle Staub anymore, and she hoped for another season of Real Housewives. It was all very normal interview chat.
Until it wasn't. And what's fascinating is how fast that tone shifted.
So fast.
Everything's going smoothly, and then one of the WGN hosts just asks point blank, How is it that a family doesn't pay their taxes for years?
Oof. Yeah.
And that question, it just cut right through, didn't it? It sort of exposed that tension we talked about. The audience wants the real reality.
Okay.
And the celebrity has this image, this financial story they tell, and suddenly they clash hard.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, right? Her reaction.
Instantaneous.
She pauses, looks maybe a bit stunned, and then she goes, whose? What family?
Like she genuinely didn't know who he meant.
Yeah. And the host pushes back, clarifies, your family. She just says, okay, I'm hanging up. Let's just hang up. That's it. Click. Gone.
Wow.
How is it that a family doesn't pay their taxes for years?
What family are you talking about?
Your family. Is that what the fraud charges were?
Okay, no, this was to hang up. That's it.
No.
It's one of those moments you kind of watch through your fingers, But it really does open up this whole thing about the unspoken rules. What happens when reality gets too real?
And, connecting this outwards, the host's reactions after she hung up are also really telling.
Right. What do they say?
The interviewer basically just went, wow, she didn't like that question. Pretty obvious, I guess.
Yeah, understatement.
And then his co-host immediately jumps in to remind everyone, the context, that Teresa did go to jail.
Right, for 11 months.
And that she and her current husband, Luis Ruelas, are apparently facing tax charges again. Something about $3 million in tax liens.
Ouch. Okay.
Next, we have about one of the most iconic moments in reality TV history as Teresa Giudice finally reveals what truly led to her infamous table flip.
Oh, the table flip. A legendary moment in the reality TV Hall of Fame.
Truly iconic. From The Real Housewives of New Jersey's very first season finale, June 2009. And now Teresa Giudice is giving us the inside scoop, the real trigger.
Yeah, she talked about it recently on her daughter Gia Giudice's podcast. Teresa, who's 53 now, explained that it wasn't just one thing. It was Danielle Staub, who's 62, insulting me a little bit, throwing little jabs. It illuminates that it was a buildup.
A slow burn before the explosion. And the context was Danielle pushing everyone about that book, Cop Without a Badge, right?
Exactly. Danielle was demanding Teresa pay attention while grilling the cast about the book. But the specific thing that finally set Teresa off, the final straw.
What was it?
It was when Danielle turned to Teresa's then husband, Joe Giudice, and said, don't speak to me like you speak to your wife.
That crossed a line for Teresa.
Big time. Teresa described her own process. I take it, and then when I don't take it anymore, I explode. That insight really helps explain the sheer volcanic force of that moment. It wasn't calculated. It was breaking point.
And explode she did, leading to that unforgettable outburst. Prostitution whore, you were f***ing engaged 19 times.
An instantly quotable, defining moment for the franchise, maybe for all of reality TV. And what's fascinating is thinking about how their relationship evolved later.
Right, they actually made up after Teresa's prison sentence, didn't they?
They did, and Teresa even gave Danielle high praise later, calling her made for it, TV gold, someone who just put it all out there, literally.
So respect for her reality TV skills, maybe.
Seems like it. But that reconciliation didn't last forever. Teresa clarified their current status, no longer in touch. She said she's not opening that can again. That door is closed. Even though Danielle apparently reached out on New Year's.
Some things you just can't come back from, I guess. Next, we are going to talk about some intriguing new details from The Real Housewives of Miami. Specifically, what Alexia Nepola has to say about potential new cast members and, well, her own personal life.
Right. And Alexia, she's a real Miami veteran, isn't she? She definitely has strong opinions.
Very strong. She didn't hold back at all, especially talking about big names like Bethenny Frankel or even Teresa Giudice.
Well, it's interesting. Her reasoning for Bethenny Frankel is pretty direct. She just flat out said Bethenny is not Miami.
Not Miami. What does that even mean in this context?
She emphasized that, potential cast members really need real Miamian roots, which is kind of fascinating because Alexia herself admits Miami's become a very transient city.
So it's a bit contradictory. Protect the brand, maybe.
Exactly. It highlights that tension, doesn't it? The show wants authentic Miami, but the city itself is changing. And, it's worth noting Lisa Hochstein seemed much more open to Bethenny joining. She actually said she liked her.
Okay, so a difference of opinion there. What about her Real Housewives of New Jersey bestie, Teresa Giudice? Why wouldn't Alexia want her on RHOM?
Well, for Teresa, it sounds like it's more about logistics, really. Alexia pointed out they already have 9 girls.
9, that is a packed cast.
It really is. So her point was they just don't need any more, even though, as she put it, there's a lot of people who want to go to Miami. It feels less personal about Teresa and more protective of the current group dynamic.
Right, protecting the existing chemistry. Okay, speaking of new additions and dynamics, Season 7 brought in Stephanie Giudice. What was Alexia's initial reaction to her, and how did that turn into a feud?
Yeah, initially Alexia sounded quite positive. She described Stephanie as definitely Miami and said she was bringing that Miami drama, high praise.
So far, so good.
Right. She admired Stephanie's energy, saying she was very opinionated, made a strong entrance. But then she quickly clarified that, yep, a feud developed. And she was pretty blunt, saying Stephanie needs to calm down and that Alexia won't let Stephanie take my crown.
Take my crown. Wow. Even though she also said we all have crowns.
Exactly. That whole crown thing, it's all about status, who gets the main storyline, who's indispensable. It's more than just a personality clash. It's a fight for narrative control.
Absolutely. Okay, moving from cast battles to personal life. Alexia also got pretty candid about her ex-husband Todd Nepola on Watch What Happens Live. What's the latest update there? It seemed very up and down.
Very. She confirmed they are not together, legally speaking. But then, almost in the same breath, she revealed they'd been intimate in the last few days.
Wait, really? So divorced but still involved?
Mm-hmm.
So what does she say we'll see on the show regarding this? And did she express any regrets about how it all played out so publicly?
She said viewers will see the highs and lows. But she also stressed that the show doesn't capture the full story, which, we hear that a lot.
True. Any specific regrets?
Yes, 2 big ones. First, sharing that Todd was a renter. She went out of her way to clarify he has no financial problems, pushing back against claims Adriana Demora made.
Okay, defending him there.
And the other regret. Offering to quit RHOM to try and save the marriage. She said looking back, that's something she would never do now.
What about her sons, Peter and Frankie? How's their relationship with Todd now?
Apparently things are good there, which is positive. Alexia mentioned Frankie loves everyone and always liked Todd, and Peter is the same. She also said her sons don't butt into my business.
Good boundaries. What about the other RHM feuds? Did she weigh in on Lisa and Larsa or Gertie and Julia?
She did. She seemed to side with Gertie in the drama with Julia, calling it a miscommunication. With Lisa and Larsa's feud, which involves Marcus Jordan, Alexia kind of hinted only Jody Glidden might still be friendly with Marcus. And she had a great line about Larsa ignoring Lisa's runway walk, calling Larsa both petty and perfect for it. And she doubled down on denying Adriana's claims about Todd's finances, but she did have to concede that Adriana's predictions about their marital problems unfortunately ended up being true.
Moving on from Miami drama. Next update, we have about a significant discussion regarding microaggressions on Gen NYC and the powerful support shown for Riley Burruss.
Yeah, this was a really impactful moment.
It really was. So this scene on Gen NYC, Riley Burruss confronts Charlie Zakor and Georgia McCann. What was Riley's core accusation?
She accused them quite directly of trying to portray her as a scary black girl.
Wow. And was there a specific incident that sparked this?
Yes, it centered around Charlie's description of how Riley interacted with someone. He recalled Riley being mad at the girl, but Riley insisted she just introduced herself. Then Charlie apparently used a hand motion, mocked her a bit, and when challenged, denied it was a racial thing. He even said him being white wasn't relevant.
Oof. That denial itself sounds problematic. And Riley's reaction was so raw, you could really feel her pain and frustration. What did she say?
It was powerful. She said, I hate when you guys try to play this like, I'm scary or I'm scaring your random white girl. That's just so annoying. It's like a real thing that I have to go through every day. And she pointed out Georgia had called her scary before, too.
It sounds exhausting. How did she explain Charlie's part in it, and what was his final response?
She pinpointed his mannerisms, saying, you do this all the time. You don't realize when you do shan, and it's annoying because it's bigger than a stupid conversation. But Charlie, despite others urging him to acknowledge her feelings, basically shut down. His final response was, I will be silent. That is what I can offer.
I will be silent. That's not exactly taking responsibility.
Not at all. It really demonstrates a refusal to engage or learn from the impact he had in that moment.
Well, thankfully, Riley did get support, right? Brooks Marks and Ava Dash spoke out pretty quickly on Instagram.
They did, and it was immediate and strong. Brooks committed to using his platform to stand for what's right and flatly stated microaggressions are never okay.
Good for him.
And Ava Dash's message was incredibly insightful. She emphasized, it's not our job as black women to teach well-educated adults these types of lessons, adding that emotional labor is not owed. Her words really hit home, illuminating that unfair burden often placed on marginalized groups to educate others.
That's a really important point, Ava made.
Aren't you trying to start your own Happy Eddie? Oh, are you? Huh?
Stacey?
Yeah.
No? Oh.
You don't know what I'm talking about? Absolutely not.
Okay, next update we have about a revealing launch from the Real Housewives of Potomac, Stacey Rusch, that has fans revisiting a reunion moment. This one has a bit of delicious irony.
Oh, definitely. A classic reality TV twist.
So Stacey Rusch just launched a cannabis brand. Why is this particularly interesting given past RHOP history?
Well, you have to rewind to the Season 9 reunion, back in March 2025. Gizelle Bryant directly accused Stacey of working on her own Happy Eddie line, referencing Wendy Osefo's husband Eddie's cannabis brand.
Okay, I remember that accusation. And Stacey's response at the time.
It was a hard denial. Unequivocal. She said no and absolutely not. Very clear.
Absolutely not.
Until now. Exactly. Just 3 months later, Stacey announces her own cannabis-infused wellness brand. It's called Shio.
Wow. And she's making history with it too, right?
Correct. She's being recognized as the first African-American woman to launch a cannabis brand in Virginia. So it's a significant launch, but the timing, given the reunion denial, is, well, it's raising eyebrows.
I bet. What about the brand name, Shio? Is there a story there?
Yeah, it's a Nigerian term that means to be joyous and happy. The brand is all about joy, rhythm, and living life fully. It illustrates a nice connection to heritage and well-being.
That's a lovely meaning.
Yeah.
But how did the fans react? Did they remember Gizelle's accusation and Stacey's denial?
Oh, absolutely. The internet never forgets, right? While she got congratulations, there were definitely plenty of shady comments from viewers. Things like, Stacey, I thought you said at the reunion Gizelle was lying. And of course, Gizzy never lies. It really demonstrates how closely fans watch and how skeptical they can be when things don't quite add up. It definitely puts a question mark over her credibility for some viewers.
Yeah, that audience memory is powerful. Okay, next update we have about a fascinating piece of detective work that seems to confirm a burner account theory surrounding Jax Taylor. This is quite the story. So, Brittany Cartwright, who's divorcing Jax Taylor, claims he operates a burner Instagram account. The name?
Frank Draymond. That's the alleged alias.
Okay. And what made Brittany suspicious in the first place?
Well, she said two things. One, Jax accidentally messaged her from the Frank Draymond account at some point. Oops.
Major oops.
Right. And two, this Frank Draymond account apparently posted, "He's a legend," referring to Jax himself, which, sounds pretty on brand for Jax defending himself.
Defending or admiring himself. Okay, but the real evidence came later, didn't it? From a podcaster.
Yes, podcaster Jenny Blaze did some digging into Frank Draymond's past posts, and what she found is pretty compelling.
What kind of posts?
Well, Frank defended Jax's rehab stay, writing 30 days equals 4 weeks. Okay, basic math. Called out clickbait, criticized a new girl on the show for looking thirsty, and crucially, commented on Jax's separation.
And what did Frank say about the separation?
He wrote, "People literally separate every day. Reality stars are no different. What's your point?" Note the spelling. K-N-O-W instead of N-O.
The misspelling. That's the key, isn't it?
That's the smoking gun. Jenny Blaze found a past comment from Jax's actual account where he made the exact same error. "We get it, you're in Coachella, nobody cares." Using no for no.
Wow, that's pretty undeniable. A digital fingerprint, like you said earlier.
Exactly. It makes a very, very strong case.
And Brittany basically confirmed she knew about it all along.
Yep. In a confessional, she said, "I've known Jax has had this burner account, Frank Draymond, for a very long time, and that he'd actually told her about it before. She figured he just forgot that I knew about it." It just brings to life this whole secret identity being exposed and maybe the lengths some stars go to control their image.
Incredible. Okay. Next update we have about the changing landscape of the Real Housewives of New York City as Brynn Whitfield announces her departure.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation about RHONY's future, and this is a confirmed piece of news.
So Brynn Whitfield is out. What reason did she give for leaving the show?
She announced it herself on Instagram stories back on June 9th. She said she decided to walk away from reality TV for now.
For now, okay. And the reason?
She cited the success of her dating app, Hoppy. Said she wants to focus more on her role as chief marketing officer there. So it depicts a career-focused decision, prioritizing her business.
Makes sense. But what's really interesting here are the conflicting reports about how her exit is being received. First, there was an insider defending her.
Yes. One source claimed that the show didn't portray Brynn accurately. They said she was actually one of the sweetest people, described her as kind and gracious and completely real, and that there was never anything fake about her.
So the edit did her dirty, according to this person.
Pretty much. They argued the show has a way of mischaracterizing people, and Brynn wasn't the person they attempted to make her out to be, though they did admit she wasn't above the fray in terms of stirring the pot.
Okay, but then there's a completely different story from another insider, right?
Right.
How does the rest of the cast supposedly feel?
Yeah, a stark contrast. This second source claims the cast has largely distanced themselves from Brynn, and hearing she wasn't returning was actually a relief for all of the ladies.
A relief.
They even said the ladies were elated that Brynn has dropped hers, and would be scared to film with her again after the mess she made last season. It sounds like her departure might actually ease some tensions moving forward.
That's some serious behind-the-scenes drama. And meanwhile, despite all the cancellation rumors, Andy Cohen confirmed RHONY is indeed currently casting.
Correct, which raises questions about what the next iteration of the show will look like, especially after losing Brynn and with these apparent cast tensions. It just underscores how these franchises constantly need to evolve.
Absolutely.